The Phoenix Suns, they're young as hell. They're probably going to lose a lot of games this season, but I'm still intrigued about their young roster. But I think there's some conversations we can have about this team in terms of Devin Booker's ceiling. Should you trade Eric Bledsoe? Is Brandon Knight the worst player in the NBA? What do they do with their center position? So let's dive into it. I want to start with Devin Booker. I mean, from a scoring standpoint, what the dude has already done in his NBA career is pretty impressive given his age of, 20 years old, and averaging 22 points a game in his second season in the league. Also getting his three-pointer up to 36% while taking a little over 5 a game. Getting to the free throw line for 6 attempts a game where he shoots 83%. I definitely see an avenue for him being a really good scorer because I'm seeing him putting up the big point totals, and his efficiency, yeah, he's got to work on it. He shoots 42% from there, but I think that's the sort of thing that with age and just getting better will happen. So I think Booker, from an offensive standpoint, is going to be pretty damn legit in the NBA, and I could see him being one of the top scorers for a long time. I do have questions about his all-around game, though. Defensively, I don't know if he's ever going to be like an awesome defensive player. I think his limit is kind of like Steph Curry on that side of the floor, which is fine. Just being not bad works. Because if you're a not bad defender and then you're a great offensive player, then you're one of the best players in the league. I think he also has a ways to go in terms of being a playmaker as well as a rebounder. 3 rebounds, about 3.5 assists. I can see him creeping up to, 5 assists and 5 rebounds a game. If he's averaging like 28 points a game efficiently from the floor, 5 boards, 5 assists, not bad defensively, then Devin Booker's going to be A-okay. We could talk about Eric Bledsoe now. There's rationale for trading Bledsoe because he's 27 years old. He only has 2 years left in his contract. And this young Suns team just may not be good enough by the time he's going to be a free agent to where he would re-sign. And I totally understand that rationale. But if I'm Phoenix, I don't want to trade him just yet because I think Bledsoe is not the perfect point guard next to Devin Booker, but he's a really good fit with Booker because I mentioned before, I don't think Devin Booker is ever going to be a really good defender, and he still has progress to make on his playmaking. Bledsoe's really good in both of those areas, and I think if you want to build a championship team around Devin Booker, I think everyone else is going to have to be really good defensively. So when you have a guy like that in Eric Bledsoe, you really shouldn't trade him away until you're absolutely forced to. And I don't think you're forced to move Bledsoe just yet. But at the same time, if you get an offer that just knocks your socks off, then you should probably take the offer anyway. But I just don't think you need to move Bledsoe just at this very moment. But I can see the rationale in both ways. Personally, I would hold on to him for right now. I think you, bare minimum, can use at least up to the trade deadline of this year to see where your team's at. Maybe you feel that your team can actually be kind of okay next season to where you could convince Bledsoe to stay. You don't have all the time in the world with him, but I don't think you have to make a decision like next week or anything either. I like the draft pick of Josh Jackson because he's another defensive player that you can play around Devin Booker. That's what I'm saying, Bledsoe at the point, Josh Jackson at the 3. Those are the type of guys who can play off of Devin Booker well. Now, of course, Jackson, by all accounts, is going to have to improve as a shooter, but I like the template of that sort of thing moving forward when the Phoenix actually wants to win games. If we can get to the center position, this is a big need for them. I don't think Alex Len's that good. I said it last year. I feel like the season he just had pretty much confirms that. I mean, he's a good rebounder, sure, and he finishes okay around the rim, but he's just kind of slow, and he doesn't really make his presence known a lot on either side of the floor, I would say. Not really an athlete, not a great defensive player. So they have some questions there. I mean, Tyson Chandler, for where he is at this point in his career, is cool. He's a good rebounder, but he's not the long-term option at your center position. I've been thinking about them signing Nerlens Noel, or at least throwing an offer at him, because these guys have cap space. They're around $80 million right now. So you could throw like a $15 million offer at Nerlens Noel, and given how he and the Mavericks just don't seem to be on the same page, hell, who knows what would happen. And I think Nerlens could help these guys out a lot, because he's the athletic defensive center, and if you now have a team of Eric Bledsoe, Josh Jackson, and Nerlens Noel, that's the type of team that could be great defensively, and one that could really help out Devin Booker. Now, I think the question with that move would be, where would you be in terms of salary if you offered Nerlens about $16, $17 million at the most, and you actually managed to get him? I'm looking at the 2020 season for them. Right now, they're going to have $41 million committed in 2020. But once you add Eric Bledsoe, if you still had him making, I don't know, about $15 million, Nerlens making 15, Devin Booker making like 25, because that's what they're going to re-sign him to, you'd be pushing up right against around $100 million in salary. But then the very next season, Brandon Knight's contract comes off the books, and then you'd have cap space again. I guess the question with that would be, if you were going to go down that route, would be if Dragan Bender can be your power forward. Because they say he's a guy who can be a shooter as well as a switchy defensive player, which is kind of the ideal power forward in today's NBA. Also, he's a slim dude, so I don't know if he can play the center position like that. I don't know, is that the team you're going to commit with? Eric Bledsoe, Devin Booker, Josh Jackson, Dragan Bender, and Nerlens Noel? If you're going to do that, you would be hoping that there can be some improvement in terms of Jackson's offense and Bender as a two-way player. I don't know. I can see the rationale in going for Nerlens because I think they need that center. But I also can see if you look down the line and you go, oh, we got to re-sign some guys. If we re-sign Bledsoe, we re-sign Nerlens. That's pretty much the team you're committed to. And, I mean, it's not good to commit to teams so early when you're just not good, So, I mean, I can see rationale in both ways. But they definitely need a better center because I don't think Alex Len is the option there. I guess I should talk about Marquise Chris since I've talked about all the other young guys in this team. Chris sucks on defense. Now, he is 20 years old, so that's okay. But he is going to have to improve there. Besides that, I mean, everything else seems like a good athlete. Seems like a guy who cares about becoming an actual shooter. I think he has the template for being a good NBA player. He's just going to have to get better on the defensive side of the floor. It's pretty simple. So I'm intrigued about what they're going to do for this upcoming season. Is Dragan Bender perhaps the center they want? Is he really a power forward? Can he and Marquise Chris play together? Is Josh Jackson actually good? A lot of questions, and I feel like we're not going to know what to really do with this team until we see how good these young players really are. If I can just give my gut feeling, I think Bender is going to end up being better than Marquise Chris. I just think Chris was a little more NBA ready for their rookie seasons. Mainly because of the defense and the three-point shooting, which is what everybody says Bender is. I don't think Alex Len's good. My gut feeling tells me that Josh Jackson is another Andre Iguodala because he's an athlete, a ball handler, a playmaker, a defensive player. There's questions about his shooting. Even if he shot well from college three, every single person who knows about scouting is telling me that there's going to be questions about his shot, so I'm going to believe them. And I actually think Devin Booker is going to grow into a pretty complete player. So, I like him. We're just going to have to wait for these young guys.